I was delivering a session once with the PowerPoint that I made by myself from scratch. I was so proud of it because I had signed for many websites that provide free photos that you can edit for commercial use. I went to the company I was supposed to be delivering a course at, and I realized that the attendees did not focus with me at all. They were mesmerized by how awesome my presentation was. And that didn't help me actually. It was too distracting. And that's the first thing that you need to do with your material or your presentation. It can't be distracting because you want people to really gain benefit from the course that you're delivering and not to be distracted by the photos or the animation that you have added to your presentation. The second point that you need to consider is that your material or your presentation shouldn't be cluttered. It's not a book. The rule of thumb here is to have no more than 4 lines, and each line cannot have more than 7 words. This is simply because you don't want to distract people with your words as well. The third point that you need to consider while preparing your presentation is to prepare it to help you as a trainer. That means you need to bold the important keywords in your presentation in order to remember what you're actually going to talk about. For example, you're talking about time management and productivity. In that topic, you will cover, say, the Pomodoro technique and 30% to 70% among many more techniques. In the middle of the course, you might forget what you're going to talk about in this part. You wrote a line in the presentation which includes the word Pomodoro technique. Here, you need to bold that phrase, the Pomodoro technique, as a keyword for you while delivering in order to remind you of what you're going to say. On a side note, I actually like to call that the RAR technique or the RAR technique because simply when you look at the word which is compressed and has a lot of information in it, the bold word, when you decompress it in your mind, it's going to be like a trigger to a whole lot of information. And by the way, that's actually what I'm doing in this course. In front of me, I've had some lines that I wrote and I've had some keywords which make me remember what I'm going to say in this course. The fourth point that you need to consider while preparing your presentation is to know the sequence of your material. Because yes, now you have a good presentation without any distraction, whether from photos or animations, and it's not even cluttered with words, and you bolded your important keywords in order to remember, but you don't know the sequence of your presentation. This will lead you to be nervous in the transition process between topics because you don't know what is the next point that you're going to talk about in your course. That's simply wrong and is going to distract you. It's going to make you nervous. And in order to avoid that, you need to rehearse and practice more and more and more in order to know all the details about your presentation. You even need to know when the animation will happen and what is the animation going to be and where it's going to start and where it's going to end. And you need to know what is going to happen after this animation and what you're going to say after this part and what are the links that you're going to use in order not to lose your audience. The fifth and the last point here with your presentation is to actually make sure that your content itself is effective, not just the way it looks. Yes, you read some books and you're going to create a material of a course according to those books because you need to share your knowledge and so on. But the secret here is to answer your own questions. By that, I mean that you already know the info. You already know what you want to teach. In order to use this info and put it in a very good material, you need to create questions about this and forecast the questions that your audience might have, which your info will be the answer to. For example, you're talking about personal productivity and time management, and you know some techniques that lead to a more productive life. So, before you talk about that in your material, your question here might be, what are the easiest techniques for personal productivity? That will help you rearrange them in a more logical order as a trainer, and it will help you explain them passionately because you will be answering a question that you know your audience have, and you will be able to remember exactly what you're going to say in the class. You'll not be distracted by any thought that you might have by the little voice that we had mentioned earlier. So, to wrap up this lecture, we talked about presentation and the material, and we said that it shouldn't be distracting by photos and animation, it shouldn't be cluttered by words, and it should involve important keywords to make you remember what you're going to talk about. Also, as a trainer, you need to know, actually, you have to know the sequence of your presentation in order to know what you're going to talk about in the following points. And last but not least, you need to prepare some questions that you're going to answer in the class, and by your material and your delivery, you're going to give the best answer to this question, to these questions. That's it. I'll see you in the next lecture.